Hi, neighbor. Alicia Dolan here at Creating in My Corner. I am so glad that you could join me tonight for Stampin' Sunday video. I had my monthly card class this week. And so what we're going to do tonight is we are going to make those cards from the monthly card class. So if you come in person to class, I'm going to show you exactly what you would get and the way that you can get it by placing an order. So if you place an order with me and you use the host code, the current host code, and I didn't check that before I signed in tonight, but I'll post it in the description. So if you place an order that's $35 or more, I send you all the pieces to complete the card class. And that's true whether you come in person to card class or you order online. So the only things that you won't have is your stamps and ink and any, you won't, I don't include the dies or embossing folders in your kit, but what I do is cut and emboss the things for you that you wouldn't be able to do without. So really all you would have to do is order the stamps and the ink to complete your projects. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera around, hopefully, and we'll get started. Hold on one second. Okay, so here we are over in our stamping space. And first I'm going to show you the cards we're going to make tonight, and then we will go ahead and get started making them. So I've got 4 cards tonight to show you, and I am going to try to move quickly. But I should be able to because all the pieces are cut and ready to go. So here is our first card, which features the So Much Love bundle. We're going to make this cute Rainy Days Are Better With You card. And we have another Valentine's card. I have 2 Valentine's cards. One could actually be just a love card. This one says, just wanted to say Happy Valentine's Day. And the last one is a host set. So if you want to get a stamp set that's a host set, you either have to host a party or you have to have order enough yourself to be considered a party. So if you have questions about that, then the best thing to do is either message or email me so that I can answer your questions. But we're going to go ahead and get started making our cards for tonight. I haven't seen any comments yet, but I'm going to check the computer real quick and see if there are any questions. Okay, and I don't see any. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. Okay, and I don't see any. We are going to start with this So Much Love card. So what we're going to do, what will come if you order the class or if you place a qualifying order, is you will get a package either in the mail or delivered to you if you're local, and it'll have all of what you need inside to make each card. So this one, the twine, I did not cut it and put it inside because I figured we could cut it as we go. But if you had ordered the class or paid for the class, then you would get that included in your bundle. So you're going to want to carefully slip everything out of the envelope because sometimes there are little pieces like these little hearts that you don't want to lose. And then we'll just get started making our card. And I will be sending out all the instructions, the measurements and everything for these cards this week in the Wednesday email. So if you're not signed up for my email list, you can do that and have all these instructions sent right to you. So what I'm starting with is a piece of sweet sorbet cardstock, and this measures 5.5 along this edge by 8.5 this way. So we're going to slide that into our paper trimmer and line it up here at 4.25. And then we can use our scoring blade, which is this gray one, and just run it along that line to create a nice fold. So we're going to fold that in half right on that crease at 4.25. I'm going to use my bone folder to press it down so that it's nice and smooth. And then we'll grab this next layer that's going to go on. This is little hearts from the designer series paper called Country Lane Floral. And it's a really pretty paper. It's new. It's in the mini catalog. So if you have one of those, then you'll be able to find it in there. And if you need one of those mini catalogs, then just let me know. So this piece of black is, hold on a second. I have all my measurements written down today so that I am not scrambling for them. 3.75 by 5. And our designer series paper is 3.5 by 4.75. So what we're going to do is turn that over. And I'm going to move my little turtle that holds my glue over here. And when we put our glue on our paper, we're just going to put, if you're using the liquid glue like I am, you're going to put a thin line around the edge. You're going to leave a little space here for your finger to grab onto, and then you're going to put a squiggle in the middle. And that is the best way that I found to add glue to the to my paper or cardstock. Then we're going to line it up so it's in the center. And because of that liquid glue, we can kind of scoot it around to get it just in the right spot. And then we're going to press it down. Okay. And I'm going to set that aside for a moment. And then on the inside of my card, I'm going to put another piece, but I want to stamp it first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this foam mat from my Stamparatus, just because I have it sitting right here by me. And here is my piece that's going to go inside my card. And I'm also going to stamp my envelope at the same time. So this is the So Much Love stamp set. And we're just going to use this little heart right here I just noticed there's a second little heart. I hadn't seen that one before. Okay, so here is one more tip for something that you can do if you're interested. When I buy a stamp set and a die set that match, I cut out a magnet sheet. This is actually a magnetic vent cover. I cut it to the size where it'll fit in the stamp case and attach it to this side using a strong glue. Now you can use Stampin' Seal Plus, or you can use parent tape. Either one will hold it for a while. Now, sometimes it does let up, and then I just know that I need to add a little more glue to that side. Okay, and I grabbed a little clear block. This is block B. So I'm gonna find that little heart, which is right over here. And I'm gonna put that on my block. And I'm gonna open up my Sweet Sorbet ink pad. And actually, I want it to sit right here flat on the table. So I'm gonna move this off to the side where I won't forget about it, but I know it's still there. And then I'm gonna tap my stamp on there. And I'm gonna grab a little piece of grid paper because I always like to test my stamp once before I stamp on the paper. So we're going to stamp it right over here. And that looks just fine to me. And I want my stamps to go here in the corner at the bottom and one up here at the top. Now this is for the inside of the card. So I'm going to set that to the side and I'm going to grab my envelope. I like to stamp my envelope so that it matches my card a little bit. I think it's just a little more fun. So we're going to do one little heart over here. And I'll do a couple on this side. Let's do a few. So let's do 3. And I think that'll be cute coming in the mail to whoever I send it to, which I'm not sure who that'll be yet. But we have a little time before Valentine's Day. So I'm just going to grab my Simply Chamois and I'm going to clean that stamp off right away. So there's no chance of my smudging the ink around. And I'll put that back in its case. All right. And I just set my stamp set off to the side there. So now my envelope is stamped and that's all ready. I'm going to set that off to the side. Here is my card base and here's the piece we've made for the inside. Now this white piece was 4 by 5 1/4. No, it's not. It's 3, it's 3 3/4 by 5. I forgot that I made it that size so that it matched the piece on the outside. That will be on the outside. So we're going to turn that white piece over, add some liquid glue. We're going to go a little around the edges, leave a space for our finger, and then a squiggle in the middle. Okay, and then we can pick it up right where that space is, center it on our card, and then press it down. Okay, so there is the inside of our card. Now we're going to work on the front. So we've already put together this piece that we know is going to go on the front. And I have a piece of white here for us to stamp our sentiment on. So this time, I'm going to use my Stamparatus because this image is a little bit bigger. Okay, and here is the Stamparatus. Now, if you don't have a Stamparatus and you you haven't tried one or haven't checked into it, you you should check it out because there are a lot of really cool things that you can do with the Stamparatus. And not only that, but if you ever feel like you just can't get your images in the right spot, this is a great tool to help you. Now mine is a little wiggly because I've been moving it around a lot lately and I lost one of the little feet that goes underneath. So I'm going to have to find a way to make an adjustment for that, but I haven't figured out how yet. Now, when I'm stamping with my Stamparatus, I like to stamp farther away from where the bend is. So that's why I'm putting my piece of paper down here. And then I'm just going to put my little magnet on. And if you see this little piece of washi tape, I wrapped it around my magnet to make it easier to pick that magnet up. Sometimes these magnets are really, really strong. I almost never use two on the top because I'm afraid they'll smash into each other, as I have had them do in the past. And I don't want them to break. I've broken some. Okay, so we're going to close our plate, pick up our image, and this time we're going to stamp with Tuxedo Black Memento ink. So I'm just going to pull the lid off of that, and then I'm going to tap it over here onto the stamp until it looks like it's completely covered. Now I already measured exactly where I want my image to go. But what I'm going to do is take a pen and I'm going to mark the corner of where my paper is so that I can practice stamp my image and then put my paper right back in the same spot. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp it down. Get up, and I should have moved that magnet just a little bit closer. Now I can put my paper right back where I put that little mark with my pen and put my magnet down. I'll re-ink my stamp. Now, I know it may seem like I'm wasting ink by stamping twice, but I like to make sure that my image is really nice. And I found that the only way I can do that is if I practice stamp before I do my real stamp. So now we're going to close that plate. We're going to press in the center. And when we lift it up, we've got a really nice stamped image. Now, if you weren't happy with how dark the image is, you could ink it up and stamp again, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, let's clean our stamp off. And I'll show you what's next. So let's put this away. Today seems like a good day for creating. It was kind of cold and snowy outside, and that for me always feels like a good time to take a cup of tea and head down to the basement and do some crafting. Now, I'm going to use my mini stamp and cut and emboss machine here to cut this out with the dies. So while we're at this, I should tell you that right now, if you join Stampin' Up, you can get a mini cut and emboss machine like this. You can get a white one or a blue one, and you can get 170 $75 worth of product for only $129. So right now is celebration time, and it's the best time to join Stampin' Up. I joined during a celebration, actually several times. And it's my favorite time of the year because with every order that's $50 or more, you get to choose extra cool stuff from the celebration catalog. So there are stamp sets you can choose, there's paper you can choose, and I'm going to be showing you, we're going to be using some of the paper in our cards tonight. But there are really great choices. So if you are interested in that, let me know and I will hook you up. All right. So I got so excited about celebration. I didn't tell you what I was doing. So I put my stamped image down first. I used the gray embossing plate, one clear plate, and then I'm going to put another clear plate on top. And while I run this through, I'm going to tell you, I always use the gray embossing plate for die cutting. I've tried the other plate that they say is for die cutting, and I haven't been as happy with the results. So if you're having trouble with your mini cut and emboss machine, I just would like to suggest that you try a different plate. And if you have questions, anytime you have questions, you can always message me and I will do my best to help you. So here is the image that we get with our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I'm going to set that to the side so that we can get this out of the way. And let's see, our die, we're going to put right back away so that it doesn't get lost. Now, also in here are some flowers, some leaves. There's some skinny words. So I just wanted to show you that they match with the stamp set. So some of the things you can cut out. You can stamp and cut out, or you could not stamp at all and just cut out the words. Okay. So let's finish our first card. So next, next we are going to take this black twine, and this comes in a pack of Baker's Twine Essentials. And there are, I think it comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different colors. So there's a cream color, gray, black, white, and this brown that kind of matches crumb cake. But we're using the black for this card. And we're just going to take it and we're going to wrap it around 2 times. 1, 2, and then we're going to tie a little bow. And we can scoot that bow around. As long as we haven't glued it down, we can scoot it around a little bit. And then I can trim the end with my snips. So they kind of match. Then when we put it on our card, we're going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I have these mini Stampin' Dimensionals right now. I can't find my regular size ones. I meant to look for them before I started the video, and it totally slipped my mind. So, but these will work just fine. They're just smaller than the regular size. Okay, so then we'll peel the backs off. And line that up. Okay, so it's in the center. and glue it down. And next is our So Much Love sentiment. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. I hope you're all doing okay tonight. I'm glad you're here. I can't see any comments yet. So I hope, and I know that some of you are probably watching on YouTube, so you're not watching live. But I'm really glad that you joined me for this, and I hope that you'll find it helpful. And really, I hope that you're creating along with me, or at least getting some time to create later. Okay, so we're going to put our sentiment right here. Then we have our 3 little hearts. So I'm going to get some more dimensionals for this. I didn't realize how many dimensionals I used on this card until just now. Okay, so there's that. And we'll just peel those off. And I put one here so that it kind of took the place of the O. I thought that was really cute. And one up here in the corner. And then one down over here. And then last, I don't know if this will show up really well in the video or not, but I took my Wink of Stella brush and I just colored those hearts. So you can see that it doesn't add a really bright color, but it does add some sparkle to them. So I just thought that was kind of a nice way to add a little something more to this card. Well, I just colored all 3 of those little hearts with the Wink of Stella glitter brush. Okay, and you can see a little bit that they sparkle when you move that card around. So that one is our first card with a little matching envelope. Okay, and we'll move right on to the next one. So this here is our next card. Rainy Days Are Better With You. And this is a fun fold card, but it's a really simple one. So I think you're gonna like it a lot. I'm gonna turn it over so that I can see those measurements so I can tell you as we go along. So once again, when you pull everything out of your envelope, you just want to take it out carefully. And this is a piece of crumb cake cardstock that is cut 4 1/4 by 11. So this is the 11-inch side. So we're going to slide that into our trimmer, and we're going to score this at 5 1/2, which is where we would fold our card in half. So just fold it in half, press it with our bone folder. Okay, and then we're going to put it in so that on the front side, we're going to cut off 2 3/4 inches. Okay, so you're basically cutting off half of the front. Okay, and we're going to save this because we need it later. So we're going to put it over here with our little stack of papers. Now this is a designer series paper. This is from the Dandy Designs paper, which is a celebration choice. So you'll get a huge pack of paper if you choose that. I think there's over 40 pieces. So there are a lot of pieces in that paper pack. And what we're going to do is put our glue along the edges. Leave a spot for our finger and a squiggle down the middle. Then you can use that spot to turn it over. And we're going to center this on the inside of the card. So we can kind of scoot it a little bit till we have it just in the right spot. And glue it down. Okay, and then next, we've got a white piece here that's 2.5 by 4. And we're going to add that in the center. Same way, a thin line around the edges and a squiggle in the middle. Okay, and then we're going to line that one up so that it looks like it's in the center of the card. Now you can measure if you want to make sure you get it exactly in the center, but I'm just going to eyeball it and hope for the best. Okay, so there's our piece for the inside, and this is where we would write our message. Okay, now I have this piece of garden green. This is 2.5 by 4. And let's see, I embossed my piece, the first card, with this Timber 3D embossing folder. So I'm just going to take and run that through my embossing machine real quick. And when I do that, I like to spritz my piece of paper with water. So I'm going to spritz it away from the table, but I just have one of these little mini spritzers. And I always put a little spritz of water on there. See how it starts to curl up a little bit? It just makes the paper a little more pliable, so it holds that embossing a little better. Okay, can you see the pattern that shows up on there? I hope in the light. So it doesn't add any color or anything. It just adds a little pattern to it, so it's not quite so plain. Then what we're going to do is turn it over. And we're going to put some glue on the back. And then we're going to glue this part right here to the front of our card, just like that. Okay, and next we are going to stamp our images, I should say. So there's a second piece of 2.5 by 4-inch white. I'm going to grab my stamp press again. And we are going to stamp on here. And I'm going to line it up with that little orange mark I made earlier, just so I don't have to make a new mark. And it should work out just fine. This time I'm going to do my stamping a little bit different. So here's my balmy blue, and this is what I'm going to stamp my raindrops with. And I'm just going to set it right here. Now the little raindrops, look like this. And so what I'm going to do is grab my little acrylic block and my raindrops, and I'm just going to set them on there. Now, if I was only stamping once, or if it was a more complicated image, I would use the plate. But I'm going to be stamping a whole bunch of little raindrops. And so I don't want to have to stamp and then clean my stamp and peel it up and stamp again. So it's just easier this time to use a acrylic block. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stamp our raindrops. And maybe one more set right up here. There we go. There's our little raindrops. And then we can go ahead and clean this off. And put those raindrops away. And next we're going to stamp Rainy Days Are Better With You. And we're going to stamp that down here. So we can close our plate and pick up our stamp. And we're going to use our Tuxedo Black Memento ink. And we're just going to tap, tap, tap it on there until it's nice and covered. And you know what? And I'm going to practice stamp. I almost forgot. There we go. I will tell you that I don't practice stamp as often with my rubber stamps like this as I do with my photopolymer stamps. I don't know why, but I have a little easier time getting a good image if I practice stamp with the photopolymer. I don't have as much trouble with the red rubber stamps. Now that I've said that, I may have trouble with them, but hopefully not tonight. All right, I'm just going to clean that stamp off. And you will notice that tonight we're using a lot of different stamp sets. That's because when I do my in-person classes, everyone who comes just, they're welcome to use my stamps and my ink. The only thing they really have to bring of their own is their own adhesive. And I found that a lot of people like to bring their own scissors, because you do tend to get used to a pair of scissors. And here I'm going to use a little sponge dauber and put my balmy blue ink back up. And I'm going to add just a little blue ink to the edges around this. These raindrops here. Okay. So that one is ready. And we'll move this aside for a moment. And when we grab this crumb cake, that was our extra piece, and we can turn our stamped image over. And we are going to glue these together. So there's our thin line around the edge, a little space for our finger, and our squiggle down the middle. And I know I probably repeat myself a lot, but I know that in my head, I tell myself the same things over and over, just so that if I have that consistent voice in my head telling me the things I need to do, then I'm less likely to forget and make a mistake, like not practice stamp or not leave a space for my finger. And then I might end up really, really sticky. And I don't really want that. Okay, so we're going to turn this over. And I want you to see that I'm turning it straight over this way. And then I'm only going to put my dimensionals on this side. Because if I put them on this side, my card will not open. I can tell you from experience, when you realize that you have glued your card shut, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not fun times. So you don't want to do that. So we're going to put them right over here on the left. And I put 5. I'm probably putting a few more than I normally would put just because they're the mini ones and I can't find my regular size Stampin' Dimensionals. I don't know where they went. But if I really gave my room a good cleaning, I probably could find them. All right, so I'm going to line this up over my piece that's on the inside and make sure it's kind of straight, and then I can just press it down. That way, when my card is closed, you don't see the inside, but it's lined up pretty well. All right, so there is that. Next, we have a really fun part of this card. So we're going to stamp our little turtle, and we're going to color him in. And this is a really fun part. Okay, so we're going to line up our paper with that little corner again. I'm going to grab the little turtle from the Playing in the Rain stamp set. And there are dies that match this one. They're so cute. There's a little tree stump. There's an umbrella. There's butterflies, clouds. I'm really looking forward to making some more cards with this stamp set. I've got a lot of making to do. All right, so here is where we're going to put our little turtle. Then we can move this out of the way so we can do our practice stamping. I'm probably going to have to turn my paper soon so that I can see when I'm practice stamping what I've got going on. Okay, so we're going to ink him up pretty good. Stamp, press, and lift up, and he looks like he's turning out just fine. So then we can put our piece of paper down, ink up our stamp again, and this time we are stamping him for real. All right, and there he is. Oh, it looks like, let's see, I'm gonna try one more time because it looks like the flower didn't quite get there. There we go. That is a really nice part about using the Stamparatus, is if you don't get an area quite right, you can stamp again. And usually it works out perfectly. I have had it where I've wiggled the plate and it's not come down in exactly the same spot. But in general, you can salvage your mistakes pretty easy with this. Okay, I'm gonna pick that up. I'm gonna put him back in his case. All right, and now for the fun part. So we're gonna use tonight some Stampin' Blends to color our little turtle. And I was wondering if I could zoom in a little bit so that hopefully you can see me coloring. All right, and I'm gonna use, I have Sweet Sorbet, I have Garden Green, let's see, Petal Pink, and Ivory. And Stampin' Blends come in 2 sets of 2. So there's 2 of each color. There's a light and a dark. And first I'm going to color this flower with the sweet sorbet. And Stampin' Blends have two ends. One is more like a marker, and the other is more like a brush tip. So I'll show you the difference. So this is the marker tip, and then on this side is the brush tip. So that's the difference in those. All right, we colored the flower. Now I'm going to use the light petal pink to color the underside of the turtle. So, and I try when I'm using that brush end of my marker to really use the side of it so that I'm not pressing right down on the tip, because that will ruin it. And for sure, you want to be kind of careful with them. Okay, so there's that. And then I'm going to use the ivory next. And I'm going to color his legs. And his arms. Let's see. And I'm not even sure if this is exactly how you are supposed to color a turtle. I don't really know. And I didn't look, sometimes I will take the time to look up animal images so I can get their colors close. But other times I just color however I'm feeling at the moment. That's kind of what I did today, or what I'm doing today, I guess. All right, and then we're going to color a shell. So I'm going to color this color, which is light garden green. Garden green? No, granny apple green. Garden green is a darker green. Okay, and then I'm going to use the dark granny apple green. And I'm going to color in these other parts of his shell. Now, I have had a couple requests for different types of videos, and I'll be working on those, some coloring videos and some videos using the mini cut and emboss machine. So I'm really looking forward to those. I like it when people make requests so that I know what you're looking for. Now I'm going to take my darker colors and I'm going to go back and I'm going to try and give my turtle a little more definition just by adding colors where the lines are and where I think there might be a little darker shadow. And you can, the nice part about these Stampin' Blends is you can layer them and they blend really well together. So even if you just go back and use the same color again, that's what I'm doing with this ivory. It still adds just a bit more color and a little definition. So there is that. And then I'm going to do a shell. Let's see, which one is the light and which one is dark? This is light. So this one I'll use up here for all those little marks. Maybe a little bit over here. And then here is the dark one. And I'm just going to go along the edge here of his shell. I know there's probably people out there who do a lot more official shading than I do, but I just like it to be kind of quick. So, and that adds just enough that he looks a little more real without spending too much time. So there's a way to color with our Stampin' blends. All right, I'm gonna zoom back out, I think. There we go. And we are gonna use our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to cut out our little turtle guy. I feel like he should have a name. Maybe his name should be Mortimer. I don't know why I think that, but I think that. Okay, come on, Mortimer. We're gonna put him down first. Okay, so here, I wanted to show you this time. This is the gray embossing plate. Okay, so we're gonna put that in. And then we put in one of our clear plates, and I always use the same one to face my dies towards to cut. They used to tell us to rotate and flip both plates, but once the plate gets cut up, and it's really obvious, it will kind of leave that impression on your paper. So if you want your paper to be nice and smooth, then you really want to use a fresh plate, not one that's all cut up. All right, we're gonna put our die right around him. I love these Playing in the Rain dies. The fact that they cut out these little guys just perfectly. All right. I gotta move it back a little bit because I can't get in. So now I'm gonna try real hard to hold him in place and pinch them together. And then we're gonna slide Mortimer in until that handle turns. And then we can grab the handle and just wind them on through. Okay. So here he is. Isn't he cute? All right, we'll set him right up here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And we're about ready to finish up this card. So first, I'm going to take my burlap ribbon. Now this comes in a combo pack right now. There's burlap and real red. And this you will find in the mini catalog. All right, and what we're going to do, let's see, which way do I want my bow to go? I always have to think about it, guys. Okay, I've got my spool on the left and my tail end on the right. Yeah, and I'm going to hold it this way, I think. Okay, so I'm going to cross my tail end over the spool end, and I'm going to move my spool to the right. I'm going to tuck the tail end under, pull my bow tight, bring up a loop on the left, and I'm going to go around. Which way am I going to go? Behind or in front? I think I'm going to go behind, and I'm going to tuck it through and pull, but I'm not going to pull really tight until I have my bow the way I want it to be. So I'm going to kind of put my fingers in there and pull it to where I think it's going to pull out tight, and just pull it like that. There we go. And actually, I think I'm going to try. Oh man. I'd like to try and get it. There we go. A little closer to the middle this time. There we go. I think that'll be cute. Okay. And then we can trim off the end. Hopefully, so it kind of matches the other side. And we're going to add some Stampin' Dimensionals to Mortimer's back. I don't know why, but I think Mortimer is a good name for a turtle. If you had a turtle, what would you name him? I don't think we ever had a pet turtle as kids. Not that I remember. Anyways. Okay, so here's Mortimer hanging out on our card. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to stamp our envelope to match because we want it to be coordinating. All right. So here's my stamparatus again. We're going to put our envelope right down here in this bottom corner. So we'll line that up. Grab our little flower stamp. Okay, close your plate, pick up the stamp. Now we're going to do our practice stamp. So we're going to take our ink, our Tuxedo Black, and we're going to tap, tap, tap. Usually I put a stamp case underneath the edge of my stamparatus, and I didn't do that today. So it's kind of wiggly jiggly. All right, here's our practice stamp. That looks good. Okay, it looked like the ink was a little bit wet, so I'm just trying to dry it a little bit before I put my envelope on there. I don't want it to smudge. All right, so we're going to put that down in the corner. Excuse me. Ink up our stamp again. Okay, stamp our flowers. And we can go ahead and clean that off. This is a bit of a longer video tonight, you guys, because I'm trying to do all 4 cards. Okay. But I am trying to move quick, so hopefully I'm not keeping you past the amount of time that you want to be here. All right, so there's that. And then we're just going to grab a couple of our Stampin' Dimensionals so we can color this in. So I've got my light Granny Apple Green and my light Sweet Sorbet. So we're just going to color in our flowers with the light Sweet Sorbet. Okay, and then we're going to color in our leaves. Oh, I should have zoomed that in so you guys can see. Okay, let's see. Whoop. There we go. And then we'll just color in the leaves. Okay, and so now we have our card and our matching envelope. And our second one is all done. Okay. Now for the next one. We are going to make this card here. And this one is made using the Country Bouquet stamp set. Okay, let me set that to the side. And here are our pieces for this one. Okay, so again, we're doing a long card. So it's 4¼ by 11. And then we're going to score it at 5½. Okay, and we're going to fold that and press it with our bone folder. Okay, so that's going to be the front of our card. Let's stamp the inside first. Now, this one I stamped to be a Valentine's Day card. You don't have to stamp it that way if that's not what you want to do. You could choose any sentiment, and if you order something and you don't get the stamp sets that I'm using, you could use any stamp sets that you already have at home to make cards with. Okay, so this piece is 4¼ by 11. No, I'm sorry, 4 by 5¼ This is not 4¼ by 11. All right, and we're going to stamp Happy Valentine's Day. Okay, so we're going to put this down in the corner again. Okay, and we can line up our Happy Valentine's Day just like that. Bring down our plate and pick up our stamp. Now we're going to do our practice stamp real quick. When Sweet Sorbet. So we're going to tap, 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 and then practice stamp. Okay, and if we're happy with that, then we put our piece of card down. This is our card for the inside of our card. We're going to ink up our stamp again by tap, tap, tapping. Okay, bring the plate down and press. And there is our Happy Valentine's Day. Okay, and for the next stamp, we're going to use a little heart. So once again, I'm going back to an acrylic block. And we're going to grab these two little hearts right here. And because we're going to stamp kind of in quick succession, sorry, it was a little tricky saying that word. We're just going to leave it on. Oh, and I smudged. I don't know how I did that. But there's a little smudge there at the bottom of my card. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover that up. So I'm going to take my little hearts and I'm going to practice stamp right over here. Then I'm going to ink them up. And I am going to stamp right over top of that little smudge. And no one will even be the wiser. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp up here on either side of the Happy Valentine's Day. And that will be for the inside of my card. And now while I'm doing the simple stamping, I'm going to stamp my envelope too. So I'm going to stamp some little hearts, just moving along their way up the side of the envelope. And maybe I'll even stamp a couple on the front there, just like that. Okay, so there's the inside of our card. Here's the envelope. And I'm going to clean that off. And put this little heart stamp away. Okay. Now I have, let's put this on the inside of our card. So we're going to take our liquid glue and we're going to put a thin line around the edge of the back. We're going to leave a little space for our finger. Then we're going to put a squiggle in the middle. We can stick our finger right in that spot and line this up in the center. Just like that. Okay, and then we have some other pieces that were in our packet. So we've got a piece here that's 2¼ by 4¼ and this is the Country Lane Floral Designer Series paper. I really like this paper, so we're going to turn that over. And right here we have a sweet sorbet strip that is 3/4 by 4¼ so we're going to put a little tiny line of glue here at the top of our piece of Designer Series paper. And then we're going to line this up and we're just going to glue these two pieces together. Now, it doesn't matter exactly how much is showing. That's all up to you. Okay, I'm going to make it look like that. And if you want to measure it, you can measure to make sure that your piece is totally even all the way across. I am just going to eyeball it tonight. Just because that's just where I'm at. That's where I'm at tonight. Now we're going to add some of this white crinkle seam binding ribbon, and I'm going to tie my bow the same way I did last time. I like to turn my piece of paper upside down. So I have my spool on the left and my tail end on the right, and I'm going to cross the right tail over the left, and I just move this over to the other side. Okay, I'm going to pull that tight. Kind of scoot it so that, because I really want it to cover up that line. I want it to be over top of that line between the two. All right, and then I'm going to put my finger down and pull up a loop. And this time I'm going to go around the front and pull up a loop. Okay, but I'm not going to pull it real tight until, I think I should have gone the other way. It doesn't look like this time. Okay, let's try that again. So we're going to pull it tight, pull up a loop on the, oops, pull up a loop on the left, and I'm going to come around. See, last time I came around the front, I'm going to come around the back. And my fingers are getting a little bit cold down here tonight, and so they're not working quite as well as they should. All right, and then before I pull it tight, I'm going to get my fingers in there and make sure my loops are nice. Then I can get my fingers in the loops and pull them tight, just like that. Okay. Then I can trim my bow. Just like that. Okay, so there is our bottom piece. I'm just going to make sure that my ribbon is lined up over top of that seam a little bit. I didn't tie it really tight, but I can add some glue dots if I need to make it stay a little tight. So I'm going to turn that over and I'm going to add my glue on the back. I'm going to do the same thing with my liquid glue as I've been doing. So I'm going to do a thin line around the edge. I'm going to leave a little space for my finger. And then I'm going to do a squiggle through the middle. And this one, I'm going to line up right with the bottom edge of my card. And I'm going to glue it right on there. Okay, so there is that. Okay, and now we are going to stamp this heart here onto our card. So for this, we're going to use our Stamparatus. I'm trying to think which way is going to be the best. I think it's going to have to go this way. Now you can use the Stamparatus any direction you need to. So we're going to stamp right here. And I'm just going to make a little mark here at the bottom corner this time. As long as you remember where the mark is for your current project, you're good. Because you will see I have little orange marks, a couple different places here. Okay, so we're going to put our card right by that orange mark and set it down. Now, this is a two-step stamp, this heart. So we're going to do these leaves first, and then we're going to line up the hearts and flowers, and we'll do them second. So this one here is the leaves. So we're going to peel that off carefully. And we're going to line that up where we want it to sit. Okay, and then we can pick it up with our plate. And we're going to ink this up with soft succulent ink. So we're just going to tap, tap, tap that on there. And we're going to move our card because we're going to practice stamp. Okay, and now we're going to check and see. How that looks. I didn't press quite hard enough the first time. Okay. So now I almost put that in the ink. I'm glad I didn't. Okay. So we're going to line it up with that mark we made. Put our magnet on. Ink up our stamp. And we want to make sure it's inked up good. But really, you just want to tap, tap, tap that ink on. Okay, we're going to line it up. We're going to press it down. And there is our first step of this stamp. Okay, so we're going to clean our image off. And we can peel this one up and put it back. And next we're going to grab this one here that has the hearts and flowers. So we're going to peel that one up carefully. I have to tell you, I don't know if they could be pulled out of shape, like if you peel them too fast, but I feel like they probably could. All right, so we're gonna line this up so that it fits in between that first stamp the way that it's supposed to. Okay, and then I'm gonna close up this soft succulent before I forget that it's open. We can pick that up. We can move our card and practice stamp. So we're gonna tap, tap, tap. Now this one isn't an image that's gonna be really solid. It's kind of, I think they call it distinctive. So it's got light parts and dark parts. Okay, and we can't really see it. I should have turned my paper, but I didn't do that. But it looks to me when I look up close here like it's in the right spot. Okay, let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to line that card up with the corner. Put down my magnet, ink up my stamp. Okay, and then we can press it down. And there is our two-step stamped image. All right, next, I'm not going to close that up because I'm going to use it again for the sentiment on the front. I'm just going to clean off my plate here and the stamp because I don't want that ink getting smudged around. Okay. And we're going to peel that up. And now we're going to get the sentiment that says, just wanted to say. And we're going to line that up right here. And pick it up with our plate. We're going to move our card, ink up our stamp, practice stamp. Then we can put the card back, line it right up with our mark that we made. Put our magnet down, ink up our stamp. Oh, I kind of inked up my plate that time. I'm just going to wipe around that so it doesn't get somewhere it's not supposed to be. You can tell my chamois getting a little dry. There we go. All right, and we're going to stamp our sentiment just like that. We can clean off our stamp, and I'm just going to wipe that plate real quick. I'm going to have to take my chamois upstairs and give it a good wash. It's about time. All right, and then we'll just peel that sentiment off there. And here is our third card. So we have one more to go. If you are still hanging in there with me, thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay. So now let's see. I'm going to turn my thing around so that if we're stamping again using that, we'll be able to see our practice stamps. Okay. So on we go. This is our last card for tonight. And it's this super cute little frog. I really, really like this one. Now, this little frog set is called At the Pond. So there are two little frogs, a log, a cattail, a little flower, some cute little hearts, some little bugs. They could be flies, I don't know. And then a dragonfly. So this is a really cute set, but it is a host set. So the only way you can get this is if you host a party. Now it can be a Facebook party, it can be an in-home party, it can be a class, but you have to host a party and get the qualifying amount of sales. So if you are interested in that, please, please, please contact me and let me know so that I can help you with that. So in this card, we've got, this is 5.5 by 8.5, and we're gonna score it at 4.25, just like we did with our first So Much Love card. I just realized my space is getting really crowded here. I'm feeling a little crowded. But I'll probably wait until tomorrow to tidy up, to be perfectly honest. Okay, there, we're gonna fold that right along our score line. All right, and first we're gonna make this piece for the inside. So we've got a piece right here that's 4.25 by 4. I keep saying that. That's 4 by 5.25. So let's put it down here. And we will stamp our little frog. All right, I'm gonna mark the corner. Now this is another 2-step stamp. So we're gonna stamp the outline of the frog first, and then we are gonna stamp his insides. So first, and we're going to stamp both of the frogs in this set. So they're both a little bit different. So this one has both his feet out wide, and this one is facing to the side. Okay, so we're going to stamp our side facing frog first. He's going to go right here. And we're going to stamp him in our tuxedo black ink from Memento. Okay. And let's practice stamp. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we'll just set this right back in its corner and ink him up again. I suppose these frogs should have names too, but I don't know. I don't know what to name them. I always want to name frogs Kermit because, but they can't be like Kermit 1 and Kermit 2, right? They should have more original names. I'm not sure what they should be. Not like Mortimer, the turtle. And I'm not even sure why that that was the name that popped up in my head for him. Okay, so that was this stamp here. So we're going to put that one back. And then next we're going to pick up this one here, which is his insides. Okay, so we're going to peel that off. And we're going to line them up. Okay, we're going to pick them up, move our card, and we're going to practice stamp. And this time we're going to use Mossy Meadow. We're going to tap, tap, tap. Oh, I feel like that's a little too close to me. Tap, tap, tap. Practice stamp. Okay, and then we can put our card back in place, put our magnet down, ink up our stamp one more time, tap, 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 and press. And there is our inside of the card. I don't know, but these frogs are so cute, you guys. They're so cute. Okay, so that's going to go on the inside of our card. And we really need to clean up this stamp and put it away because we're not going to use that one again right now. Okay, so we can put that one back in here. Oops, I think I got a little out of place. All right, and then next, we are going to stamp on the front of our card. And we're going to stamp this little cat tail right here. Now, this is another stamp that has steps. Oh, I shouldn't have put him away because I actually stamped him on the envelope. But we'll go back in a second. All right, so the one we want right now first is the outline stamp here. So we're going to peel that one up. And we're going to put it right here on the edge. Pick it up. Do our practice stamping. So we're going to add Memento ink. Tap, 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 tap. And stamp it down. That looks good. I'm a little worried. That one looks kind of wet. It looks more damp than the other one. All right, it didn't smudge on my finger, so it should be okay. All right, we're going to put it right back in that corner spot. Ink up our stamp. And we're going to stamp right there. Okay, and then we're going to clean that one off. Okay, guys, I might have to pause my video for a little bit and finish it later. All right, this is the inside of the leaves. I didn't realize what time it was, and I need to take my daughter somewhere before it gets too late. All right, so now we're going to stamp the mossy meadow on this. This is the inside of those cattail leaves. And we're just going to stamp that down. And see how that colored those leaves without, like, we didn't have to color them. We're just able to use their stamp for that. Now, next, there is this little tiny piece right here that goes inside the cattail. So I am going to use my little block for that, just because it's such a tiny piece. And some soft suede ink. So I'm going to tap, tap, tap. And then I can line that up right over that cattail and stamp it down so that it's colored. And it fits right inside there. And then I can clean that off. And put this away. Okay. Now, for our sentiment for tonight, I'm going to set this aside for just a minute. We are using the Plain in the Rain stamp set along with the At the Pond stamp set. So this stamp set doesn't actually have any words, any sentiments at all. But I thought, oh, happy day seemed like a perfect sentiment for this. Okay, and I have right here a little circle in my kit that's already cut out. It's about 1 3/8 inch. I'm going to ink up my stamp and stamp right in that circle. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know if my head got in the way there. I'm really sorry, guys. Sometimes I have to be directly over what I'm stamping to see what's going on. Okay, so there's my Oh Happy Day. Now on this little piece of white that was in my kit, I'm going to stamp the little frog. This piece of white is 2 by 2.5 inches. Okay, I'm going to put this aside. And next we're going to stamp our little frog. Let's put it in this corner right here because that one already has a mark. And we're going to use this frog right here that's facing front. Hi, Karen. Okay, so he's going to go right here on this white paper. We're going to pick him up and move our paper and do our practice stamp. So we're going to ink him up with some Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm glad you could join me tonight. All right, so there is our little frog. So that looks good. We're going to put our paper back in that little corner that we marked. Put our magnet down. Ink up our stamp one more time. And stamp them just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to clean that off. I know. I love this little frog. He is so cute, isn't he? I like this little frog set. One of my daughters really likes frogs, and that is why this was a set I chose. Okay, and next we're going to use this little inside frog image. Okay, and we're going to line it up so that it fits right inside. Pick it up with our plate. We can move our stamp image, and we're going to ink up the stamp with Mossy Meadow. Is it from Celebration or the mini catalog? It's from the mini catalog, but it's a host set. So I was just saying that you can only get it if you host a party or if you order enough yourself to qualify as a party. Okay, so here's our practice stamp. And then we can move this right back in that corner spot because we already marked it. We're going to ink up our stamp. And stamp it down. Okay, and there we have our little frog. So now all our images are stamped and all we have to do is put our card together. All right, I'm gonna put this little frog away. And I'll show you how we're gonna turn this into a card. So here's our card front, and here is our image for the inside. So we're gonna turn this over and add our liquid glue a little bit around the edges, leaving a space for our finger, and then a squiggle in the middle. Okay. And we can turn it over. Oh, I got a little glue on my fingers. Line it up in the center and then press it down. Okay, and then we can go on to the front of our card. So here is our piece of designer series paper and a piece of mossy meadow. And the mossy meadow is 1 5/8 by 5 3/8. And the designer series paper is 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. Now this paper is also from the Celebration catalog. And you can get it free with, I think, a purchase of $50. And it's called Dainty Flowers. So it's a really pretty paper. This is actually the back of one of the pieces. But it's got a lot of great colors and patterns. Okay, we're going to line this up in the center. And because we use that liquid glue, we can scoot it around just a little bit. So we get it right in the middle. Then we're going to take a piece of our crumb cake twine. I think it's crumb cake at least. And we are going to wrap this around twice the long way. And then we need to tie a little bow here at the top. Okay. Now we have our little bow. And I try not to pull it too tight until I've got my bow kind of the way I want it, because if you pull this thread tight, it'll twist your little bows all up. Okay. So let's trim our threads here. Twine, baker's twine, it's called. And then we're going to turn this over, put our liquid glue on the back. And don't forget to leave a space for your fingers so you won't get too gluey. Okay, and then we're going to line this one up kind of along the left side, but not all the way to the left. So right about here. And we're just going to glue that down. Now it does take a little more effort because that twine will hold it up a little bit. I didn't use Stampin' Dimensionals this time, but sometimes I do to make space for that twine. And then next we're going to take our little frog and we're going to glue that to a piece of mossy meadow that measures 2 1/8 by 5 1/8. Now, I don't usually do my measurements in eighths, but I wanted a really thin border this time, and so that's how I got it. Because remember, this was 2 by 2.5. So it's 2 1/8 by 2 5/8 is the mossy meadow. I know it sounds crazy, right? And when I'm talking in 8, I see you laughing at me, Karen. Okay. And then I'm going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. Again, they're the mini ones because I can't find my regular size Stampin' Dimensionals. I might just have to order more. Okay, so we're going to put this on the front. Just like that. And then we have our Oh Happy Day sentiment. So we're going to turn the little circle over, put some glue around it. Oh, about the finger space. Yeah, well, if I don't leave that little finger space, I end up glued to everything. Because I'll try to hold on to the edges and then my paper will flip. I just find it's a lot easier to leave that finger space. Okay, so we'll turn that over. Add our little dimensionals. Okay, and then our little Oh Happy Day and go right over here. So here is our last card, and I did not do this part right here with the frog, but I think you can figure that out. So when you're stamping this part for the inside, if you just stamp your envelope at the same time, you'll get that image. So here are the cards we made tonight. We've got our Oh Happy Day card. Oh, my battery is low and it just tried to turn off on me. Oh Happy Day card. We've got just wanted to say Happy Valentine's Day. I noticed my hand's in the way of the, and that one we stamped our envelope like this. We've got our Rainy Days Are Better With You. And that's our little fun fold card with our matching envelope. And last but not least, our So Much Love card. So if you have any questions about these cards, feel free to send me a message and let me know. Thanks, Karen. And on Wednesday this week, I'll be sending out the email with all of the measurements and the products that I used for tonight's class, along with a link to order with the host code. So if you place an order with the host code and it's $35 or more, I will send you a kit to make each one of these cards. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any comments or suggestions. I'll see you guys next week. Happy stamping.